Well, that's a good segue into my final lap in this very kind time you're giving us, Neil. China. Now, China has, as our Prime Minister, I don't think he's had the credit here at home in Australia, I have to say, for the global leadership. It has been global for a country of 25 million. He has clearly, I think, focused attention on what he calls the emerging arc of autocracy, where you've essentially got the world breaking into those who believe in freedom, and that's the point about Zelensky and the Ukrainians. That, maybe they've woken us up in time to realise we've got to stand for what we believe in and stop undermining, particularly in our children, confidence in their own culture. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than the alternatives. And that China, on the other hand, on this one, has refused to exercise the undoubted power that it would have had with its best friend Russia to pull them into line. Not only that, they're attempting to bust the very sanctions that might end the bloodshed. What do you think China, though, would be thinking at the moment? They are in grave risk of becoming fellow pariahs, I would have thought, globally with Russia. I don't think China would want that. And they're also, of course, seeing us pull together in a way that perhaps they didn't expect.
Well, I think China made a major blunder in giving Putin the green light to invade, so long as he waited till the Beijing Olympics were over. They now see the scale of the blunder, and they're trying to reposition themselves as peacemakers. And I think that's a shrewd move on their part, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this war wouldn't have happened had it not been given the blessing of Xi Jinping as part of that friendship that he and Vladimir Putin were boasting about just before the Olympics. The closeness of the ties between Russia and China right now are at historic highs, and they appear to have an aligned view of the grave threat to their authoritarian systems posed by democracy. I've been saying, as you know, John, for some time, and here I'll have to end it, we're in Cold War II. We've been in Cold War II for at least 4 years. The difference between Cold War II and Cold War I is that in this Cold War, China's the senior partner and Russia's the junior partner, whereas it was the other way around in the late 1940s, right the way through until the two fell out in the late 1960s. The other difference is that in Cold War I, the first hot war happened in Asia and Korea. In Cold War II, the first hot war is happening in Europe and Ukraine. As we look ahead, we in the West, and I very much include Australia in that definition of the West, regardless of geography, we who live in democracies and who believe that democracy is the best of all forms of government, the one most conducive not just to political freedom but to economic progress, we have to stick together because this is not the last chapter of Cold War II. It's the first chapter. And who knows what the next chapter will look like. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if a crisis over Taiwan were part of that next chapter. I'll say one last thing. The Chinese are looking at this and thinking, it's harder than it looks, invading a neighbor. But they're also thinking the West won't be able to use sanctions against us the way that it just did against Russia. We're far too big and strong for that. And they're also probably looking at the Ukrainians and thinking, there's no way the Taiwanese fight this hard in the streets of Taipei. So I don't think that the probability of a Taiwan crisis has gone down very much. And I do sense that we should all be very clear-sighted about the role that China has played in this crisis in enabling Vladimir Putin's war of aggression.
Neil, the civilized world owes you a great debt. Thank you very much for your time and for the role that you're playing in helping us understand right across the free world, as I touched on, what's happening and what's at stake. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Always a pleasure to talk to you.